Oftentimes, we blame ourselves for things that may be our fault or may be no fault of our own. And all of this blame stems from really three fallacies, three illusions that we fall for. The first one is that we are somehow not controlled by the laws of cause and effect, like every single thing in existence. We are part of this universe. We are not separate. We were not born into a vacuum. And so when we notice causes for the things that take place, we see that there is no blame possible because something happened that led up to this moment. And usually that thing that happened is through no fault of our own. It is because of our environment, our circumstances, our upbringing, things that we have no control over, including the thoughts that pop into our head out of nowhere. We don't control what our next thought will be. These are beyond our control. These are caused by so many things going on in our subconscious and our unconscious minds, from so many things from our past, stemming back to when we were born, to when the people who raised us were born, where their parents were born, and all of the causes and effects that led up to these moments we place blame on ourselves. The second fallacy is that we are not ourselves, that we are the thinking mind, and that there's also this true self, this duality within us. So the thoughts blame our true self, but the brain is not us. The thoughts are not us. And when we recognize that true source of self within us, that beingness that witnesses this body, these thoughts, we can't blame ourselves for anything that happens. That's not to say we don't take responsibility, that we don't interact with this world as this person with this label and this name. But there is a deeper dimension to us than the word that is our name. And this is a perfect entity with a imperfect, aging body, with these limited perceptions, with this egoic mind that tricks us into believing that it is who we are. Because we are that awareness of the thoughts. And so when we stop believing that blame, when we witness the thinking as blame and not as who we truly are, we cannot blame ourselves. Only the ego can blame ourselves. And we don't have to identify with the thoughts in our head, just like we don't have to identify with our knees or our hands or elbows. It's just a function of this body that interacts with the physical world. And we are that non-physical awareness, because our cells will constantly die and be reborn, and we will be constantly physically changing. But that continuation of consciousness that never changes as long as we are alive. And the more we identify with that, then the less these thoughts can control us, the less they can weigh on us, and the less we will suffer from whatever comes into our awareness, whether it's the actions of others or the actions from our past or the voice in our head. And the third fallacy is that we are supposed to be these perfect beings, or that we are supposed to have these perfect lives, or that we deserve what happens to us, as if there's some cosmic force that says we are deserving of the cruelty of others. This is not the way the world works. The fact of the matter is, we are part of this larger universe, and it will always have ups and downs. Sometimes things will look beautiful, and sometimes meteors will crash into Earth and cause enormous, violent explosions. And this is the nature of the universe, is ups and downs, good and bad. And our inner happiness is not dependent on a perfect universe, or I should say a projection of what we believe the universe should be. Because the universe is perfect, and it's also messy and chaotic, and it is also the space which is eternally peaceful and still. And if we only focus on the physical manifestations around us, and we don't focus on the empty space from which all of the stuff emerges, then we are living in a limited perspective that our entire peace or suffering depends on this roller coaster. And once we expand our perspective to not just the things that happen, but to the stillness within, to that empty space that is changeless, just like our consciousness, then no matter what is happening, we are also in touch with peace. And we need to touch this depth of peace that is around us and within us in order to step off of that roller coaster, to step back from the chaos and to not get lost in the chaos. And so when we feel that peace, despite the chaos of our mind, the chaos of the situations that we find ourselves in, we can forgive ourselves. We can let go of anything we have been obsessing over, fixating on, and holding on to. Whether it's blame, shame, guilt, regret. And all we have to do is create moments in our lives where we can tap into that peace, which is to simply say, we allow those moments of stillness. We allow for moments of witness. And the more we witness without resisting, judging, labeling, the more we identify with who we truly are, the more space we allow in between thoughts, the more we focus our attention on the space and the energy between words in our mind, between moments of chaos. And we can never lose touch with that peacefulness. And that is really the purest feeling of presence and love. And when we invite this peaceful presence and loving energy into our lives, this blame dissolves. This self-hatred cannot survive in the presence of love. And all we have to do is recognize that peace that is always present. Often, when we are struggling in life, we focus on symptoms. If we are eating too much, we focus on losing weight. If we are playing too many video games, we focus on playing less video games. If we are consuming too much alcohol, we try to cut back on alcohol. But all problems are symptoms of the same root source of all of these problems. And if we don't focus on that root source of the problem, then we will only exchange one problem for another. We may fix one temporarily, only for another one to arise. And it's like a game of whack-a-mole. We may knock down one mole, but another one pops out of the ground. And instead of trying to fix each problem, instead of working on discipline for each problem, we can work on discipline itself. Instead of trying to become mindful of each problem, we become mindful itself. And so if we notice that every single problem in our lives starts with our mindset, and we go straight to the source, not to the thoughts, not to the behavior, but straight to the mind, we can fix every problem in our life. So many people find creating the discipline to meditate impossible. But this discipline becomes discipline in every aspect of life. And the mindfulness we develop in meditation becomes mindfulness that we apply to every aspect of our lives. And so, if you can create a habit of meditation every single morning, whether you feel like it or don't, then you are building the discipline that will extend to getting to the gym afterwards, or eating healthier foods, or prioritizing your work schedule. And the mindfulness that we develop in meditation, the peacefulness that we develop will translate into being more mindful with any habit we have, and to building patience over impulsivity, so that we actually control our entire day with intention instead of unconscious habits and unconsciously reacting to every impulse that pops into our mind. So the more mindful we become of all of our thoughts, the more that we choose wise action instead of unconsciously reacting and giving in to our urges and temptations. And meditation is the easiest and safest and most transformative way to instill that discipline, because that is training the mind to more thoughtfully respond to every situation in our lives. And there is nothing else that can train our mind to fix every problem in our life. If we are eating too much, we are not mindful of how our body is feeling, how we are eating more than we need, how we are emotionally eating, and how we are eating for instant gratification instead of nourishment. All of the problems that are in our control stem from short-term thinking instead of seeing that bigger picture. And sometimes those urges, those temptations, are like a voice in our head getting louder and louder. And if we try to fight it, it just gets stronger. We're giving it energy. If we just obey, then we are creating a stronger neural pathway in the mind for that negative behavior. And if we watch it and don't listen to it and don't fight it, and we just let it be, we create a new neural pathway in the brain that becomes stronger than any urge and impulse. And every time we witness without giving in, we strengthen that behavior. And in a very short time, any negative habits and behaviors completely disappear, because we are creating that larger perspective in our mind. And it simply starts with a short meditation every morning, where we allow ourselves to watch our thoughts without any distraction. And then that becomes our habitual way of thinking.